Episode 16, Take Pleasure in Your Work. Welcome to Reviving Your Soul, where Christians are finding the courage to embrace their faith in all aspects of their lives so they can stop being bored or overwhelmed and begin to live the life in fulfillment and in peace that God created them for. I'm your host, Vanna Johnson. Let's get started. One of my favorite songs was released by the group Alabama back in the early 1990s. That was back in my country music phase. I got out of that, thank goodness. I didn't really fall in love with it until the Christian group started singing it in our church several years later. I was working full-time back in those days. I was raising my children. I was working, traveling a lot, going to conferences, and then on weekends we'd be traveling to hockey games and soccer games and, who knows what else. I just remember it was a really busy time. The name of the song was I'm in a Hurry to Get Things Done. The lyrics go on to say, I rush and rush until life's no fun. All I really got to do is live and die, but I'm in a hurry and I don't know why. And I would sit there and I would ponder, good point, why? Why am I in such a hurry? I really never did come up with the answer to that. But I remember I would hum the tune for days after I'd hear that song. The message haunted me then, and it really still does today. Why are we in such a hurry? Really, what is the rush? We get impatient with the clerk at the checkout counter. And in fact, if you're like me, you use a self-checkout because you can do it so much faster than they can, right? We can hardly contain ourselves if we get caught at a red light. And heaven forbid we get stuck behind a train while we're driving on our way to work or somewhere else we need to be. Email wasn't fast enough. We needed instant messaging because we had to get that message across so much faster. We want to lose weight, but instead of just cutting back and watching what we eat, we've got to find that magic pill so we can lose a massive amount of weight as quickly as we can. 10 days would be ideal. Otherwise, it just doesn't seem to be working for us. We want big fancy homes before our salaries will justify purchasing one. And we want executive positions before we've paid our dues in the work world. Somewhere along the way, our society shifted to the idea that everyone needs a college degree because that will get us on the fast track to making more money faster. More importantly, it was supposed to launch us to the front of the line to the, quote, good jobs and keep us from having to start in one of those meaningless jobs at the entry level of any organization. I'll admit, it's been a really long time since I entered the work world at the age of nearly 14. I kind of had to slip that through. I started at a whopping wage of $1 per hour at a local drive-in. I took orders, I flipped burgers, I manned the fryer, I poured drinks, I mopped the floor, I washed the windows. Whatever Paul asked, that was the owner, I did it. I don't remember ever feeling richer than the day I would get to cash that check. And it really honestly couldn't have been more than $20 or $30 a week. Fortunately, Paul was a great guy to work with, and my best friend worked there too, so it really didn't ever feel like that much work to me. But in the years that followed, I waited tables, and I worked as a grocery store clerk, checkout clerk, a bookkeeper. I even worked at food service when I was in college, and I had dozens of others progressively more responsible jobs through the years. It helped me develop a work ethic that quickly landed me roles that created a sense of value in myself that I couldn't have learned in any other way. Back then, everyone I knew, or almost everyone anyway, had a job somewhere. We needed to work to have the money to buy our entertainment, to buy our clothes, even to pay for gas money. I still remember buying that first pair of shoes with the money that I earned, something that my husband wishes I hadn't enjoyed quite so much. And the satisfaction of buying my own clothes at the age of 14. It just felt so rewarding to be able to do that on my own. Through the years, labor laws have changed drastically for the landscape for teenagers to be at work. But I think the social norms really have had a greater impact on the changes of teenagers at work. From what I see, it's now beneath a lot of high schoolers to work fast food or bussing tables at a restaurant. At least the kids that I know, a lot of them just don't want to do that kind of work. It might be embarrassing. Besides, I'm not sure it wouldn't be considered child abuse if they had to purchase their own necessities for themselves anymore, right? As a result, the work ethic has changed drastically as well. Now, don't get me wrong. I am so impressed with the ambition and the drive of so many young people that I meet these days. But you have to agree that there is a population of people out there, young and old, who have no skills and no incentive to work because they don't see the intrinsic value of the satisfaction of a job well done. It's sad because there's no way to feel the rewards of working until you actually work. Yes, work can get in the way of having fun, but can also be a lot of fun. Like almost everything in life, it is what you make of it, and until you try it, there's no way you can know if you can do it or how awesome it can be when you do it. I know it seems like I've drifted completely off point, but really this is the point. We really need to stop being in such a hurry. We need to stop this mentality that everything has to be instantly available to us, and we have to allow ourselves that opportunity to dream about getting that thing that we want, that we don't have already. We need to have the discipline to trust that it can happen if we work towards it, and just because it hasn't happened already doesn't mean it won't happen. I'm all about working to improve ourselves to prepare us for a higher station in life. But in the meantime, we need to start living in the present moment. Find the good in the work that we're given today. Learn the skills. If the only job you can get is being a greeter at Walmart, then be the best darn greeter that Walmart has. Work with a smile. Greet customers with a friendly hello. Pretty soon the boss is going to promote you, or someone coming through the doors is going to hire you away. It doesn't matter where you work or what you do. The principles still apply. Do your work as though you were doing it for a king, because you are. Every one of us is exactly where we are for a reason. There is a lesson to be learned or an opportunity to be taken in every situation. If we are so busy feeling sorry for ourselves or feeling bitter because we got looked over for a promotion, we're probably going to miss out on that lesson. In Psalm 78, 70 through 72, the Bible says this about King David being called from the sheep pens, and then shares that he cared for those sheep with a true heart and led them with skillful hands. He did his work tending sheep as though he was doing it for the Lord. From that job, he rose to be the king of Israel when he was ready to do that. The point is, we should not treat our present situation lightly or irresponsibly. It may very well be God's training ground for your future calling. It reminds me of a time years ago when I was filling a position for a marketing person to help our agency with organizing conferences and preparing annual reports, helping with marketing materials, and a lot of other creative type stuff that would be done in an office setting. One of the applicants was a salesperson at a local shoe store where I had recently bought a pair of shoes. Ironically, I think it was the same store that I bought my first pair of shoes from. I didn't recognize the name of the applicant, but I asked around and discovered that this was the same young man that had sold me that pair of shoes recently. That day in the store and in the follow-up encounter I had with this man, he had given me the best customer service I had had in a very, very long time. In fact, I was so impressed that I gave him that interview, and even though his work experience had nothing to do with the job I was hiring for, I gave him that job. Now, I've made a lot of really good hiring decisions through the years, but that one stands out as a really great example of hiring the right person and being able to train the skills. He went on to have a really great career. So who knows where he'd be if he hadn't sold those shoes like it was the most important job in the whole world that day. My encouragement to you is, rather than getting frustrated that you aren't where you think you should be, take a look around and appreciate where you are right now. Who is there with you that may need some encouragement? Or what can you master that can help you work your way up through a different area of work? If you can't find a job that you really want, is there one that you can take that will help you grow into something else? Can you volunteer somewhere that will give you the skills that you can transfer to that dream job you have someday? Something else to consider is that you may be in that place where you are right now, not because it has anything to do with your work that you're doing or the lesson that you're learning, but the connections that you're making. Years ago, I took a position at a local bank thinking it was going to be the best job ever. I was only there for a little over a year because, well, it wasn't. But while I was there, I made a friend who became a friend for life. And I know that she and I would have never met under any other circumstances. We got really close, and it was a few years later that her husband died of cancer, and I was there to help her through that. Had I not taken that job, sure, someone else would have stepped in, but we would have never had that close connection, and I believe that that was the reason for that. I've said it before in earlier shows. We are all created for a purpose. We have a mission to fulfill. To the person lying in a hospital bed, the person who brings a cup of water or empties their bedpan could be the most important person in their lives that day. Few people will decide that either of those tasks are something that they're going to be their dream job and they're going to aspire to all their lives. But it really is important. So if you take your focus off the task and put your focus on the person that you're helping at the moment, or the opportunity that you have to help someone in some small or maybe not so small way, doesn't that make a difference? Honestly, that work is way more meaningful than some jobs that make 10 times that in the salary. So my advice is to slow down. See what is around you that needs done. You are there for a reason. When you think about it, the song was right. All you've got to do is live or die. So why are we in such a hurry? So, how can you slow down and reframe your work task on your list today? How can you make someone else's day a little brighter or their burden a little lighter by taking even 10 seconds longer? How can you be the face of God for someone today? I'd like to share a portion of our prayer from church this Sunday. Dear Lord, on this Labor Day weekend, we praise you especially for your gift of work in many callings. Free us from thinking of that gift as drudgery. Help us to welcome labor with joy as an opportunity to be a blessing to our neighbors. Remember especially all who desire to work but can find no gainful employment, as well as those who are no longer able to work as they would like. I really believe that with a little perspective, we can all love the work we do. We can all fulfill our purpose. And if we choose to, we can create a life that matters. I'd love to help you with that. If you want to know more about how I can help, I'd love to visit with you. You can find me at VonnaJohnson.com. If you know of someone who needs this message, please share it with them. It could change everything for them. So do it. Live in courageous faith. It truly will revive your soul.